We have turned it inside out, the whispering continued. We are bringing you a gift, our last gift probably, because we are weary of your world and the affairs of men, pygmies. Now stand back from your desks. It was such a command that I fairly leaped out of my chair and drew away from the desk. Still leaning upon it, I stared in wonder at the shadow which was forming itself upon the cleared space by the side of my typewriter. At first, it was merely a dark shape. Then it was a shadowy cube, growing denser all the time until it became a dim shape. The shape grew brighter. There was a tiny spitting sound, like two hot wires being touched together. There was a smell in the room, not unpleasant, but not pleasant either. A completely alien smell. A wave of cold air struck me, and passed by, leaving me shivering. Our furnace came on with a start. Then the lights were gone, and I was looking in wonder at a leaden box, about a foot square. It had a hinged lid, and around the middle of it, the figure of a snake was excellently carved. It held its tail in its mouth, locking the box securely. Its eyes were two great moonstones that appeared to look up at me with half-blind amusement, winking at the wisdom they had forgotten and the fear that I was feeling. I touched the box and drew my hand away in pain. It was colder than cold, desolate, burning cold. It was 2 hours before the box became warm enough, or cool enough, to touch. Then, after several experiments, I got the snake's mouth open and the lid swung upward on chilled hinges. Within it was a manuscript. As soon as I looked at it, I recognized the handwriting of my old friend, Dr. Jack Odin. Well, it was just as before. It was more of a series of notes and jottings than a story. It took months to piece it together. Several pages were badly burned and spotted. It was hard work and slow work. And this is the tale that Jack Odin sent me from somewhere. End of chapter 1.
Hunters Out of Space by Joseph E. Kelleam. Chapter 2.
Jack Odin descended into the cavern, or what Keefe had called the hole, for less than 100 yards before his strong flashlight sent its lancing beam into a stone wall. At his feet was a crevice which went straight down, as though it had been measured by a giant square. He got to his knees and looked over. Playing his light around, he detected a few ledges, like narrow steps far below. It was pitch dark down there, and not even his strong light could reach to the bottom. He tried tossing a few pebbles into it. Listening, he heard the faint rattle of their fall, but could not be sure whether they had landed on one of the ledges or had reached bottom. Looking around him, he found a weathered bit of limestone that thrust itself up like a small table. It did not look very substantial, but it was his only hope. Odin had crammed his ammunition, food, and canteen into a knapsack. Looping the rope through it and his rifle strap, he lowered them over until he felt the rope slacken as his gun and supplies rested upon the first ledge. Releasing one end of the rope, he carefully drew it back. Now he knotted the rope about the stone and let the two lengths of it trail down towards the ledge. He had kept his flashlight, which he thrust into his belt. One other thing, a little miner's cap and light, now came into use. It was warm down there, and as soon as the cap with its lighted lamp was on his head, sweat began to pour down his neck. Suddenly he remembered a scene he had witnessed one morning in West Virginia, so long ago that it should have been forgotten. His car had stalled in a tiny town one evening. He had slept in the only hotel, but he had got up before daybreak so he could start an early search for a mechanic. Looking up toward the hills, he had seen a silent procession of lights going upward to some unknown mine. There was something grotesque about those climbing lights. The identity of the men was lost, and this was a crawling thing up there on the hillside. For a moment, he felt himself feeling infinite pity for all the men everywhere who spent their days in the dark. Then he laughed. Better feel a bit sorry for Jack Odin, too. Getting ready to lower himself over a precipice, and not having the slightest idea when he would reach bottom, or whether there was any bottom at all.